If we had a mascot, what would it be?
I was thinking a dog. There's times we're sleepy, there's times we're energetic, but we're loyal.
That was my first thought too. Then I was also thinking a raccoon.
A raccoon.
Let me tell you why. Raccoons are very smart. They solve a lot of problems. And our team is really good at solving problems, but they're kind of goofy. They're family oriented. They have these little family units, and I think we function similarly, right? One department can't function without support from another department. We're working together towards that end goal.
Hi, I'm Denise Sabia, and together with Mike Bowman, we're your hosts for Renovation Radio. Mike and I are passionate about helping people create the home of their dreams. So if you're thinking about remodeling your home, or if you're just looking for some inspiration, we're here to help you make your dream home a reality. This is Renovation Radio.
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 Hey everyone, this is Sarah Lane. I am your guest host today, along with Mike Bowman. And Mike and I had a nice little chat about office culture and what it's like working in an office. So take a listen and we hope you enjoy.
Okay, so here we are at Renovation Radio in the summer. Vacations are abound. I was on vacation last week. Denise had a guest host. Denise is on vacation this week. So my guest host is the person I've been waiting to get back on the show since the first time, Sarah Lane.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Sarah Lane.
So I was trying to think of some topics when I was on vacation. And it seems that the office life has been playing a lot of roles in all of our lives, but a lot of action going on in the office the last couple of weeks. So I kind of came up with the topic of the interaction of office life, personal life, because half our lives we spend with our families and the other half we spend with our work families. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of wanted to explore that dynamic of the office atmospheres.
Great. I feel very knowledgeable about this topic.
Yeah, well, as the newly anointed office manager, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
You are now in charge of that show.
Isaiah's just hearing this for the first time. Isaiah, podcast producer galore over here, just hearing this news for the first time.
Executive office holder.
Somehow.
Yeah. So in doing some research, the unfunny part of this was I wanted to find 10 factors to office life that seem to go across all categories of businesses, not just construction, and then kind of delve into the construction business office life dynamic. So number one was office culture and environment is always an important factor. Number two is communication and collaboration, which one of the reasons why we're in the new building that Greg created and designed was for those two exact factors, that we could get up and talk to people and collaborate very easily and not be segmented in different buildings. Number three, which is always important for everybody, is career development. You got hired for a job. How do you get to the next level or another job within this company? Mm-hmm. Number four is productivity and efficiency. Again, another reason why Greg created this building and the layout is to increase both of those aspects. Leadership and management. Very important factor in all of it. I'm part of the leadership team. Sarah is now part of the management team and getting ready to see what it's like to deal with adults.
It can't be that much different than dealing with my toddlers.
Well, that's what you think. Another aspect is well-being and health, which is usually at the bottom of the list, but a very important part.
In this case.
Number 7, technology and innovation. Always a big part of our job. We're always having meetings about new technology and innovation. Isaiah, you play a big role in that. You're kind of an across-departmental situation, and one of the things that you do is discover new technology and innovation and how it helps us. Number 8 is a big one in a construction company. Office etiquette and professionalism.
Oh, that's a fun topic.
We're kind of
you could do a whole
hybrid.
podcast about that.
You could.
Topic alone.
Because we're like a hybrid. We're professional, but not professional.
Yeah.
We have a good mix of field people and office staff.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's not necessarily not professional. It's just a different kind of professional, right? It's messy. Construction is messy. Obviously, office professionalism is different than on-site professionalism in some ways.
Yeah, that is very true.
And etiquette will be different inside of an office versus outside of an office.
Yeah, because we're kind of out of the age of, hey, Toots, can you go grab me a coffee? To,
Right.
Let me get my own coffee. Thank you.
Right.
Number 9, another big one here at Hearth Builders, office events and social activities, which
That's really
Denise,
all
who is not
Denise.
here, is in
Yeah.
charge of. So.
Yeah, Denise, our social coordinator, outside of just salesperson and podcast host, she has a number of hats.
Yep. And number 10 is interesting. It's born from COVID, remote work and hybrids, and how they interplay with office, working from home, working in the office, or some kind of mix of both of them. I think we have a pretty good mix. We have a little bit more freedom to do stuff at home in certain people categories than others, but
Yeah, I think there's some jobs that are really conducive to hybrid work, work at home work, and I think there's other jobs that really require you to be in the office.
yeah.
And I think that makes it challenging for hiring too, because so many people have experienced over the past couple of years the opportunity to be hybrid. For example, we had this position open up, and I had reached out to a friend and asked if she knew anybody that might be interested. And her first question was, "Is it a full-time in-person position?" And I was like fascinated by that being the first question, because I didn't even think about it could be a hybrid role, and that's what people are seeking now, right? Because I've always been a full-time in-office person.
I rather enjoy getting up in the morning, taking a shower, driving to somewhere outside of my home, enjoying a cup of coffee and listening to the radio. I'm not built for work at home.
Me either. And I think there's something to be said about separating your home life and your work life, right?
Yeah.
Like you can almost, in some roles, we were talking about this earlier today with answering emails outside of work hours, but I think that there is a really good way to, having your workspace be outside of your home is a really good way to not bring work home with you, because if you're in a stressful job, or there are things that have been upsetting you at work recently, or you're going through a challenging time, it's easier, let's say, if you're working at a place that's outside of your home to compartmentalize it and just like step away from it a little bit when you get home. I think if your workspace is within your home, for some people that could be stressful, to be all in the same space. You don't get to leave and kind of remove yourself from the stress.
I think that's one of the cool things about this place is even people who could do their job from home. I think people would rather come in and work in person here than be at home.
I think that's also a testament to the culture here. I think we
Yeah.
all enjoy
Yeah,
being around
yeah.
each other. We have good relationships. I like spending time with my coworkers and my colleagues,
I mean, I'm throughout the day constantly going up and down stairs, meeting with people, calling people, doing stuff. So the ease of access to team members and everything is...
I find this environment, when I had a couple negative things happen in my personal life, it was actually easier for me to come into the office. I'm not like a hide in the room person. And maybe I'm not interacting, but I'm still listening to what's going on to help alleviate that those situations that have happened. And, there is a social component created here that really is second family. I mean, I am an interaction person, and I just couldn't do that over a computer all day, every day. I would lose my mind.
I would too. I'm a high interactive person as well.
Everything I do is on a computer, and I would lose my mind if that's the only thing I could do is just stare at a computer all day.
Well, that's why my husband ultimately left his job, because he had a high level of interaction at his company, and then COVID happened and he was working from his computer in our basement. He had already been struggling a little bit with the company itself and whether or not he wanted to continue there, and COVID kind of solidified that, and now he works for himself and he's never been happier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest factors for choosing this topic always as well was on vacation. I caught half of the movie Office Space. Which I think is just the greatest satirical office movie there ever was. And we always quote it around here, joking around. So it just kind of solidified it's a great topic to talk about.
I mean, I'm immediately picturing Micah and his swing line stapler. It is blue instead of red, but every time I see that stapler. The other day, Maya took it to her desk, and no joke, 15 seconds later, Micah walked up to the printer where the stapler lives and said, "Who took my stapler?" And Maya was like, I didn't know. Poor thing.
Yeah.
The wrath of Micah.
Now, the lead-in from the movie Office Space is away from the seriousness of the 10 factors of office life. So I came up with a couple questions and offhanded things that would be humorous to talk about. And some of these questions are, if our office had a theme song, what would it be?
My
Full
immediate thought...
Full House. That's a good one.
Full House intro.
The Full House intro. That's a good one. No, my immediate thought, based on vibes alone, Margaritaville.
That's fair.
Like, listen,
The vibe.
Greg, good vibes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
listen, we're not like all wearing Hawaiian shirts and ready to go out onto the beach. But the general vibe is we have a culture here where we like to kind of relax together, spend time together, have a few drinks. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but at the end of the day, we're serious about our clients and our work. But as a culture, I think we're fun.
Yeah.
We're not too serious.
It's funny. The first one that popped into my mind, which was funny, you mentioned a TV show because I thought of The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
like our little universe or whatever. And because it is, different planets or departments, and we have people in the field and people in the office and people here and people there. So that was the immediate one that popped into my mind at the time.
There's a show about working in like a kitchen. I forget what it's called. It's like Bear or something.
The Bear, yeah.
Yeah, and the way they like shoot it is like hectic and crazy. I feel like a show like that could be shot here in an extent, but in like an office way.
Yes, I would agree. I think it depends on the day. There's some days that are really quiet around here, but other days where it's like chaos.
Yeah.
There is a lot of moving parts. I don't think that maybe the general public does understand. Like, it's just a kitchen renovation, but I don't think they realize how many people and how much planning and all of this stuff that goes into making this perfect kitchen of your dreams. And it's not easy. And there are mistakes. So there are times where people are happy running around, upset running around. We have emotional ups and downs just like everybody else. So it is interesting.
I think it's easy to have emotional ups and downs when you're seeking excellence, right? Like that's what we want to give to our clients is an excellent product. We know it's not going to be perfect, but we want it to be excellent. And so in order for that to happen, we need to cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's. And like we have an entire meeting, our production review, where that is what we're trying to do, right? We are doing a peer review of our projects to make sure that we haven't missed anything, to make sure that we've thought through all of the things so that when we get on site, we can be as efficient as possible and we can provide an excellent product to our clients, which is, I think, what they're seeking from us. I think that they come to us because they want somebody who's going to give them the care and attention that they want to see in their home, right? They want to live there for a long time, want to make sure that it's done properly. They don't want to have to redo it again in a couple of years. So they want to go to, some experts that they can trust who are going to provide them, something that's going to last longer than 15 seconds and is going to be an excellent vision.
It's like watching a Pixar movie versus like an indie animation film. You know what I mean? The more I work here, the more and more I see how directly transferable process and everything is to like creating anything that's great. You know, you need a team of people, all who have expertise in every little category, and then you need to somehow web all of those together and make them all talk nicely with one another to create something that is greater than all those little parts. You create something.
But we have fun while we do it.
Exactly.
Hence Margaritaville.
And we are going to have mistakes. We always talk about it's easy to do a good job. It's what the company does when something goes wrong.
Right.
That's when you tell an outstanding company, which everybody jumps in and tries to get any situation figured out. There's going to be emotional ups there, but we work it out. The clients love it. And in the end, everybody's happy. It's, again, no different than any other family.
Right.
So,
which actually, I'm going to jump ahead because I have your list of your questions. One of the other questions you asked me, which I would love to know your answer to as well. If we had a mascot, what would it be? So I'm going to ask you that first, and then I'll tell you what my answer is.
it was funny because when I wrote it down, I was thinking a dog because it's like a multi-tiered emotional animal. Like there's times we're sleepy, there's times we're energetic and running around, want to chase a ball, but we're loyal.
It's funny that you say that because that was my first thought too. I was like, a dog. I think a lot of times our design meetings and our construction can be like therapy for clients and not necessarily like the kind of therapy a dog provides, right? Yeah. But, you can sort of go through heightened emotions and we're there to like guide you along the way, right? And dogs are there for therapy. But then I was also thinking if we're having to go with an animal, would be a raccoon. And I know that's...
A raccoon.
Let me tell you why. Because raccoons are very smart. Okay. They solve a lot of problems. They can like pick locks and get in anywhere. And our team is really good at solving problems, right? That's what we want to do when we're renovating a space is what problems are you having? Let's
solve
fix
your
them.
problems.
But also like they're kind of goofy. They're kind of fun. Like I guess this is going back to like the Margaritaville answer, but like they are kind of just funny. Like, have you ever watched a video of a raccoon?
It's
Like-
ironic you mentioned on vacation. I watched a show where they were talking about one of the biggest segment of non-domesticated animals growing is raccoons. People raising raccoons for the same reason you're saying.
They're just like, I don't know, they're so smart and like, you know, they're little trash thieves, sure, but that's just like their general
Well, that's what
day-to-day
they call 'em,
MO.
trash pandas.
Trash pandas, yeah. And so like that's the drawback to a raccoon, right?
Yeah.
But like they're family oriented. They really like they care. They have like a little pack of creatures. If you run over a raccoon, the babies in that family are likely not going to survive. They rely on each other in order to survive. So they like have these little family units, and I think we function similarly, right? Like one department can't necessarily function without support from another department. We're working together towards that end goal. So raccoon, I love the dog answer because that was also my first thought, but
No, the raccoon's actually a good
raccoon is
one.
my answer. Also, they would have funnier names than dogs. I do love it when dogs have
What would you name a raccoon?
Bandit.
Martin.
Martin.
That's a good one. Martin.
I love it when dogs have human male names because you see dogs with human female names all the time and it's not like funny.
Yeah.
Like a dog named Lily or Chloe. But like imagine this is my dog Mark. You know what I mean? Like that's so much funnier. This is my dog Steve.
Yeah.
Or Brian. Like I know
Brian
that's
is-
just super common male names I think are so funny for a
That's an
dog.
interesting take on dog names.
And then imagine you're outside and you're like, Steve.
What's the most ridiculous office role? I was trying to think about this a little bit, and really, I couldn't really think of anything. It's something that's like,
A rule?
yeah.
I mean, listen, are we in high school? Do we have rules? I mean, there's common office etiquette,
Common
right?
sense, yeah.
But like, I don't know if there's necessarily rules. I mean, like, there's definitely things that we have to do. If we have any rules, I don't think any of them are ridiculous.
No.
Because I can't even think of a single one that makes me think this is nonsensical.
Before I worked at a computer store selling computers over the TV, we all worked in the warehouse, and I always thought it was weird that we all took lunch at the same time. Because in here, you can't do that. Because I
No.
might eat lunch at 10, and I might eat it at 2:30.
Yeah, depending on your day.
And we don't really make rules for guys in the field about you have to take lunch from 12 to 12:30.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a need for a rule unless there's multiple breakers. We might have to create a rule at some point, but I really can't think of anything that's like a rule.
I think it's just common courtesy, what you do. I mean, you said at the top of the hour, you said earlier that like we spend a lot of time together. And you, I think, had said it was like your second family. And I had kind of thinking ahead about us having this conversation. I had sort of compared it to like dorm life, right? Like you're not spending like the time in the evening and, you know, overnight together, but you are spending the same amount of time with somebody as you potentially would in a dorm scenario.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's brings me back to college a little bit. And so there's a lot of like common courtesies that you should be employing to your coworkers. It's a lot of time together.
It's funny because like the amount of time we spend here, and I obviously, and I'm sure your husband would say the same thing, and your girlfriend. Whenever I bring my wife around the coworkers, they're always like, "Oh, Mike is so great. He's so helpful."
I feel like there is a expectation, and as there should be in office spaces and professional environments, where you are cleaning up your mess, whether that's, you know, emotional or a literal mess, like if you've made a mess in a room, clean up after yourself. You know, and I just think that's common courtesy to people you share your space with. It's a shared space, so I want to be respectful to my coworkers, and when I've made a mess, I'll clean up after myself.
I mean, like that damn sink in the break room.
The damn sink in the break room, which my husband would laugh at because I am the biggest culprit of leaving dishes in the sink at home, but I never leave a dish in the sink at the office.
No,
Because I can show my husband my mess. I can't show my coworkers my mess.
Yeah.
They need to know I'm put together, right?
We got to put this facade on.
Yeah. Well, it's not even necessarily a facade. I think I'm pretty well put together, but like it's that comfortability factor of like I want to remain professional and I
It's a standard.
Yeah.
yeah, I want to like set the example that I think everybody should. It's like that phrase, like treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think little things like those across the board, no matter who you are, if you have a standard that is respectable, it's a good influence on the people around you.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's one of the intangibles that builds the culture here.
Yeah,
You know?
I would agree.
Next one, office buzzwords. And this is one that has always driven me crazy. Even before I started here, my wife would always use the words due diligence. And that just drove me crazy. I don't know why. She used it so
About
much.
what?
And,
What
like,
would she say it about? I just can't think
well,
of
I
like.
have to do my due diligence before I can reach a decision. And I'm like, oh, so you have to research? Like, why can't we call it researching? I'm like, due diligence is such like it seemed like this
Alliteration.
hoity-toity office word. Like, I'm in an office, so it's not research, it's due diligence.
Well, I feel like one word that we use a lot around here is bandwidth.
That was the
Is
word
what?
I was going to say.
bandwidth. You know, we're always like, oh, do you have the bandwidth to perform this task?
Yeah.
Isaiah, is it in your bandwidth to produce this image for the podcast? You know, it's a useful term, but I think that we do use it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. And not only that, we use it, it's the name of one of the documents that we use to keep track of where we are in a particular project. So we follow the bandwidth of a project and how it flows from start to finish, which just helps us sort of manage everything. But it is, I think, an overused term here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And another one that I never really liked, and we don't use it here, it's like my downline reports. Because I'm like, you mean the people that, what? The downline reports? Like,
Downline reports.
yeah, and it's like,
I don't think I've ever heard a single person say that here. I think, though, that we don't use a ton of like super duper corporate vernacular because we aren't super duper corporate, right? We're not this like mega corporation with like thousands of employees. You know, we are still a family owned company.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who have a similar work environment that aren't like massive companies, especially in the suburbs, right? We
Yeah,
got a
I
lot
think-
of smaller scale family owned businesses, which is, you can have some corporate vernacular, but not a whole ton.
It's a great thing, and I think we lack a lot of that like typical corporate.
no, we're kind of a hybrid. I mean, there is a little bit of overflow from family-owned construction business to corporate. I mean, we still have to follow budgets and balances and
Yeah.
all that stuff, but it hasn't overtaken one way or another. We're kind of sitting in the middle of a good thing, I would say. Okay. If you could swap jobs with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Oh,
That would be, I would think a lot of people would say that, and I immediately went the opposite.
See now, well,
who did you say, Isaiah?
give me 30
He
years.
said Greg.
Give me 30 years, my mind might change. I might be more tired, but I would like the challenge and I would like the money.
I respect that ambition. I mean, I would not want Greg's job. Being responsible, ultimately, it's your name on the business, it's your name on the top of the line. I personally wouldn't be able to bear that kind of responsibility
I think that's
for
more
fear of messing up and like wrecking someone's life because I've made a mistake.
And there's
don't-
80 plus people kind
Yeah.
of depending on you to.
For their paycheck, for their job,
Yeah.
for their livelihoods. I think that's a lot of pressure. And I have such respect for anybody who can be in that position and really applaud you for the ambition of that as a response
Yeah.
because I wouldn't want Greg's job.
I don't know about his job specifically, but the idea of being able to do all that, that's something that I would like to strive for every day, but that takes time and experience and like legitimate, almost like superhuman just ability to work.
Yeah, because I always told him, like, I never want your job, but I'll be your best number 2 through 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy that part of it, but I don't know if that guy ever shuts off. If he's
think he
able to
does.
shut
Yeah.
off. I don't know.
Well, and that's another thing. I'm saying this at 23.
But I
Check
don't think
back
he
with me in a few
dislikes that.
decades. I
I
might
don't think
be.
he dislikes not shutting off.
No,
I think he enjoys it. I think it like feeds him.
I would probably want to work under Jeff in the warehouse for a day.
Cool.
Like, just give me a job. See you later. Let me do it, and I'll come
Just
back
like
at the end of
zone
the
out
day.
and do it. Yeah.
I don't know when I can shut off. I mean,
Yeah.
late at night and then early in the morning, but you know, I find myself waking up with thoughts of work at like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm
Sure.
like, oh shit, it's over. Like now I just get up and start
I do that
answering
too.
emails and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And maybe because like of being the construction manager, it seems appealing to me to go to Wawa and make hoagies for a day. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you want
Just
that
do
Italian
something
hoagie?
like kind
Here
of-
it comes.
super easy,
Yeah.
kind of brainless almost, just
Yeah, just like get into a rhythm of
perform
like,
the task
yeah.
and be done with it. Not think too hard about it. I
Yeah,
can
not a
respect
lot
that.
of personality
Yeah.
problems.
I think I would probably want to be a draftsperson for a day. I have always loved architecture. I did a study abroad trip that was like architecture and theater combined. And we got to walk around London and look at all the different architecture. And growing up, I've told a couple of the designers this. When I was growing up, my mom every month got a copy of Southern Living magazine. And in every issue, they had a floor plan of the month. And every month when it would come, I would look through it. I would look at the floor plan, decide whether or not I thought it was a good floor plan for what. I'm not sure. But if I liked it, I would rip it out of the magazine and I would glue it into a notebook. And I just had this notebook of house floor plans that I thought were good floor plans for, the judgment of a 12-year-old. Like I loved it. I had graph paper and I would make my own floor plans. And so I've always been interested in that. And then when I worked in real estate, we specialized in new construction. So we worked closely with builders who they knew the technical aspect, but they needed assistance with the design. So we essentially functioned as both the realtors and the designers.
Right.
And there were a few times where I angered a few architects by redlining their floor plans and making them change them. But they ended up really, better for the changes that I made, not to sound arrogant, but, we knew what the buyers were looking for, open floor plans and certain functionality within particular rooms. And so we helped them by making adjustments to the plans and making suggestions. So I think I'd like to be a draftsperson.
There you go. Not bad at all.
I mean, they have a lot of like technical skill and architectural knowledge and I think people don't necessarily, when they're reaching out to us, they don't necessarily understand all that goes into what a draftsperson does and
Right.
why they're important and the expertise that they can provide for particular renovations. So,
I mean, essentially, they're building your house on paper.
yeah.
And they need to know the same codes we do out in the field.
Yeah.
And, there's a whole engineering level to being able to draw that. Essentially, if you draw it, we can build it type of scenario. But if you
Yeah.
draw it wrong and we build it wrong, people could get hurt.
Yeah.
Money's lost. Lives
Money's
are
lost. Yeah.
It would be really cool to like have that ability like of an architect or a draftsperson or a designer to have the sufficient knowledge to be able to look at a space and look at it in that way. It's a cool ability, a cool way to look at things.
Well, your response, Mike, reminds me of a question that I had for you because you asked me to prepare a few questions. Can I ask you one now?
Shoot
Do you
away.
mind?
Fire off.
So I was thinking you're kind of a unique person because you've worked in the field and you worked in an office. And so I was curious for you specifically, when you did make the transition from field work to office work, what was the biggest adjustment that you had to make?
To get the answer to that exciting question, stay tuned for part 2 of this episode.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Renovation Radio. I hope you learned something new and that you're feeling inspired to start your next remodeling project. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Hearth Builders. We're always here to help. And don't forget to subscribe to the show so you don't miss any future episodes. We've got some great topics coming up in the next few weeks we don't want you to miss.